Hey y'all, it's Lisa Zahiya, and this is all about how I use coaching to grow my business, to change my life, and most importantly, to be satisfied, healthy, and happy. The first time I ever got coaching was actually while I was in life coaching school. I owned a small business. I grew it really quickly due to my marketing background, due to my MBA. While I was doing that, other small businesses were like, hey, can you help me? What are you doing? Somebody said, hey, if you'll coach me, I'll pay you. And I said, I don't know how to do that. So I went and did a life coaching certification and learned how to create a journey on how to create lasting change. It's not just consulting where I'm telling someone to do, but how do you actually coach someone into change? I think that's really important. And controversial statement, I would never go to a coach who doesn't have coach training because I don't think it's inherent. I think that there's a skill set and that shows that they've put in the time, money, and effort to do that. Also, I don't go to a coach who hasn't done what I am trying to do. So I go to somebody who's created that change in their own life. So I'm looking for both the training about how to do this and the real world experience. So I experienced coaching then. It was great. And then the first time I got a coach was 10 years ago, a business coach who I worked for 2 years. That cost me $50,000. And I was like, it was like an incredible amount of money to me at that point. And I think at the point my business was probably doing about $150, so it was like a high percentage of what I was making. But at the end of those 2 years, the business had gone from making $150 to about, I think it was at about $375. So was it worth $50,000 to make $225,000 more dollars? Heck yeah, and I fully attribute it to the skills, but also the accountability. Now, the other thing that happened during those 2 years is I really learned how to work with a coach. So part of what I do, and I have coaches now, is that I set aside time. I have a notebook. I write down like notes from our sessions, accountability, and oftentimes we're working inside of a framework. In that time, I set aside time each week, oftentimes right after the call, to make notes about the actions because coaching guides me to the decisions I have to make. I have to do the work to actually do it. I learned a habit about how to work with a coach. So did that. It was amazing. And then after that, started working with a new business coach because I was looking very specifically to work on building my courses. So went to somebody who was doing that specifically, and in that time was able to start selling profitable courses. So I went to somebody who had done what I wanted to do. Now, what coaching looks like in my life are a few things. One, I have a life coach who also does general like business, but just generally is keeping me on track in the holistic view of my life. I have worked with her for the past 3.5 years, and we think about the last 3.5 years of our lives, it has been transformative. It's been really hard with the pandemic, among other things. And she has certainly really kept me on track, happy, healthy, through a lot of great transitions coming out on the other side. And if you look at where I started, who I was, what kinds of relationships I was entering, it is completely transformed. I also work with specific coaches about things that I want to improve in my life. So this year I've worked with a public speaking coach. It was amazing. The thing I think about is how can I go from good to great? So I was a good speaker, but how could I become great to really impart what I want to do? I also worked with a branding coach that also was a strategist, so was doing some implementation. Those two things, those investments, because it's not spending, it's investing. It's up to me to see that money grow. So I have a life coach all the time. And now I'm working specifically with coaches in areas that I want to see elevate. And then I also work with a personal trainer who's a coach. And I think that this is really interesting because when we think about coaching, we go back to the original place that coaching was used, which is sports. And we see that they both work on strategy, plays, how to approach someone, But secondly, what's the mindset that I can do it? And that's really what coaching has done. So overall, I've invested about $250,000 in my life in coaching, and the outcome of that has certainly been over $1 million in what it's done for my businesses over time. But like, also, what is it worth it for me to feel happy and healthy while I'm doing it? It's incredible. The piece of advice that I would have is like, put in the work to have the time to put it into action. I hope this is helpful. Thank you.